We told a little story about your love. With children's books about old Noah's Ark and the flood. We told a little story about the world that you created. In only 7 days, we took it literally. We told a little story. We sang our little songs, belittled all your glory, saying that our tribe's the only one. We told a little story about your grace. We neglected to include the entire human race. Told a little story about your plan to save the chosen ones, and sold the sheep out from the goats, and right from wrong. We wove a little fable. We told a little lie. We taught our little children that their little sins condemn them all to die. But little did we know, little did we care. Sense a bigger story than before. Every daughter, every son, and every human one of yours. See the bigger glory, a gentler, humbler kind of love that's willing to stand with the hurt and broken, every one of us. I tell a bigger story, I sing a bigger song. You see that God's not bigoted, not concerned in right or wrong. Yes, His love is bigger than, deeper, wider, higher than, so big that all the universe belongs, so big that all
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are we this morning?
Good.
Good.
I feel good.
All right. Welcome. All right. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is number 16, "'Tis the Gift to be Simple," from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to rise or sing as the Spirit moves you. The lyrics will also be projected on the screen. Now please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 16, "'Tis the Gift to be Simple."
To be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. when true simplicity is gained. To bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis the gift to be gentle, 'tis the gift to be fair, 'tis the gift to wake and breathe the morning air, and every day to walk in the path we choose. 'Tis the gift that we pray we may ne'er come to lose. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Grace Preuss, a member of the Worship Committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the Worship Committee who make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Wedeking, who monitors our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. We invite you to leave your worries and defenses at the door and trust that what happens in worship is inspiring and powerful. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser as we begin a new day and a new week. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we'd like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all of this information, and it is also available on our website. Join us next week after the service for our first Sunday luncheon. Next week's theme will be salads. If you'd like to contribute anything to the meal, please see me after the service. Today is the final day of the UUCR book sale in the parish hall and the front lawn. Please see Kate if you are able to volunteer to help out in organizing, selling, or packing up. Thank you. The church council meeting will be held on the first Thursday on February 4th at 5:30 p.m. in the church annex. And now I'd like to invite our Social Environmental Justice Committee Chair, Adam Wedeking, for a special announcement.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to share this prayer from the UUA President, Reverend Dr. Sophia Bettencourt, written after hundreds of UUs joined a march against ICE in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and as federal agents fatally shot a 37-year-old Minneapolis man on Saturday. God of many names and one abundant love, we come with a spirit of gratitude, hearts broken open wide. Thank you for the visible, thriving, insistent power of everyday people that some of us witnessed through frozen lashes caught up in the swell of humanity on the streets of Minneapolis. Thank you for a labor movement that has long taught us to right-size fear of the oppressor and lean instead into the sacred and unrelenting power of the people. Thank you for faith traditions that are grounded in love of neighbor, a love that calls us to care unflinchingly for one another and to respond when violence comes in all its forms. On this day, as we once again grieve in horror at the mindless and morally bankrupt murder of yet another observer in South Minneapolis, help us to stay connected to one another as grief and rage, exhaustion and despair make their way through us and through our communities. We know that the egregious use of violence, the deployment of young children as bait, the threatening of our leaders, and the violation of our basic human rights are all tactics to trap us in fear and convince us to believe lies about our own power and moral responsibility. The cost of such terrorizing tactics are unspeakably high. Help to prepare our resistance for the long haul, inspire our disruption, and keep us connected in these destabilizing times. Keep the strains of protest songs alive in our hearts for the coming weeks, months, and years. No one is getting left behind this time. We will sing together until our songs are songs of victory, and our children know themselves to be safe and whole. May it be ever so. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
Thank you, Adam. This concludes today's announcements. Greeting our guests. Our time together is brief, but it is filled with joy. In that spirit, I invite you to turn to those around you, greet them, welcome them, and share that joy. For those on Zoom, you can use a Zoom wave gesture or just wave at your camera. We have a few people joining us on Zoom this morning. Our friend Dinah is there. Hi, Dinah. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Sue's big iPad. There's someone named Sue and Eric's note taker. Okay. So thank all of you. Hello, all of you in cyberspace. Okay. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to all of our visitors today, and welcome back to our old friends. We would love to meet you during coffee hour in the parish hall after the service, where you can also find our visitors tablet. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you are here, and leave your contact information if you would like updates on church events. There will also be a short discussion after the service to share your reflections with us. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You're welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today's speaker is UUCR member Lauren Young. Lauren was born and raised in southern Wisconsin. Her mother's favorite relative was her uncle, Lauren's great-uncle, the Reverend Mr. Lee Jones. No Unitarian churches were available in their area, so she attended local Protestant Christian churches. But at home, and when her mother was a Sunday school teacher, which she often was, she was taught Unitarian values. In the early 60s, after the merger of the two denominations, she and her mother attended the new UU church in a nearby city. They felt proud when the minister was one of the clergy who marched in the second march, the successful one, from Selma to Montgomery in Alabama. After completing nursing school in Madison, Wisconsin, Lauren attended the famous Frank Lloyd Wright Church in Madison for 4 years. Many notable individuals, both historical and contemporary, have been associated with Unitarian Universalism, and their contributions have had lasting impacts on society, culture, and human rights. This is the second installment in an ongoing series of famous UUs. Beatrix Potter is best known for her writing and illustration of children's books. However, this talk will focus on the lesser-known aspects of her life, as an amateur scientist, a scientific illustrator, an environmental activist, a philanthropist, and her views as a Unitarian and a free thinker. As a supplement to this service, a film based on Beatrix Potter's life will be shown today after coffee hour around noon in the sanctuary. We hope you will join us. We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is a remembrance candle for the indigenous peoples who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. We remember that we live off the unceded land of several indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Luiseño, the Serrano, the Tongva, the Cupeño, among others. We light this sacred flame in their remembrance and in recognition of their ongoing struggle for freedom and dignity. Our second sacred flame is our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We are blessed with this space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's chalice lighting words are by Tracy Johnson. We light our chalice this morning, light of our creative spirits, light of our wise souls, light of our wondering and curious minds, light of love for this place, this people, this work. Illuminate our hearts and the spaces between them in this sacred time of unfolding. Blessed be. Our hymn now is number 121, We'll Build a Land, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to rise or sing as the Spirit moves you. The lyrics will also be projected on the screen. Now please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is also shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Rowe or Robert Brown in the church office if you are interested in purchasing. Oh, I'm sorry. And Dinah's here with us too in spirit. Stop there. Please see Robert Brown in the church office if you are interested in purchasing the gift cards. Today is 50-50 Sunday, which is held on the fourth Sunday of the month. If you wish to donate to the 50-50 program, half of each designated donation goes to the featured recipient and half to the general fund. This is in addition to your pledge to the church. Please write 50-50 on the memo line of your check or on the cash envelope that you find in the pews. Today we are donating to the Church Maintenance Fund. The Church Maintenance Fund goes to the upkeep of our church. There are a lot of repairs and things that need to be done due to the age of this building. So please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. To those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. To all of you who have joined us here today, thank you for the gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? A tote bag will also be passed around to collect food and hygiene items for our local community. Thank you. Our next hymn is number 1010, We Give Thanks, from the Teal hymnal. Feel free to rise or sing as the Spirit moves you. The lyrics will also be projected on the screen. Now please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 1010, We Give Thanks.
Precious day, oh, gather here, cast far away, for this time we share, with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
This is the part of the service where we center and ground ourselves in the present moment. Please sit back, relax, and if you wish, gently close your eyes. Our meditation today is The Pulse of Life by Jennifer Johnson. These are anxious days, hair-pulling, hand-wringing days. We are bombarded from all sides with new and unprecedented developments. Grave threats to our national values and institutions on one hand, and countless calls to action on the other. And then the flood of critique and analysis. Whose strategy is winning? How do we outmaneuver the other side? These are indeed uncertain times. And yet, there are some things we do know for certain. We know that our blue boat home continues to rotate on its axis, continues its familiar sojourn around the sun. The sun sets and rises, and if we remember to pause, we may lose ourselves, but for a moment, in the glorious play of light and color on the horizon. Beneath the crust of cold earth, the crocuses and the daffodils are stirring in their winter hibernation. The energy of life and living is pulsing in them and in the latent blades of grass and the unseen maple buds. And it's pulsing in us too. The pulse of life calls us to nourish our bodies with good food and movement, to nourish our spirits with art and song, friendship and tenderness, and quiet. When we heed the pulse of life, we know what we need to do. To rise in the morning and rest into darkness. To put our hands, hearts, and minds to work. To meet those in our midst with compassion. To join with the vulnerable and speak truth to power. To play with our youngest and hear the wisdom of our elders. To heal the sick and the wounded. To grieve the dying and remember the dead. To be of use, and sometimes to be still. The pulse of life is beating in each and every one of us. Amidst the clamor of these times, let us heed its sure and steady rhythm. Now let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. Now I would like to introduce Lauren Young speaking to us on famous UU's Beatrix Potter. If someone could come up to the pulpit and help us with the mic so that Lauren can speak, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me all right? Yeah, sounds like it's working. Okay. Good morning. My name is Lauren Young, and I will be your speaker today. Beatrix Potter will be the second in a series of famous UUs. To give you some historical context, Beatrix was born in 1866, just a year or so after the end of the American Civil War. Queen Victoria reigned over an empire that included nearly a third of the planet. Charles Dickens was still writing, but would die in 1870. During the 19th century, in the 1800s, a second enlightenment, transcendentalism, and an upsurge in Christian fundamentalist, including revival meetings, were all part of the religious and philosophical scene. This is not a conversion story. Beatrix was born into a family which had a history of Unitarianism on both sides back at least 3 generations. Beatrix's paternal grandfather had been known for treating his employees with fairness, paying a viable wage, and providing safer and better working conditions than most factory owners did at the time. And at the time, factory owners were notorious for providing poor working conditions. He even converted a nearby mill into a schoolhouse to provide education for the children of his employees, as well as the child laborers. What was Grandpa Potter's industry? At one time, his business was the largest producer of printed calico fabrics in the world. An interesting bit of trivia: Beatrix would later use one of Grandpa Potter's original designs as the frontispieces for one of her books. Not only was Beatrix born into a Unitarian home, but also into an affluent one. They were considered upper middle class. Her father, Rupert, wanted to be an artist, but was convinced by his parents that he needed to enter a profession, one that required a university education. He attended Manchester College, a Unitarian institution, starting out in theology and planning to become a minister. He found he didn't really like it and studied law instead. After he passed the bar, he would occasionally take a case he found interesting, usually to help a friend, but mostly he led a life of leisure. He was fortunately able to live and support his family from the interest on his inherited wealth. He and his family had upwardly mobile ambitions, especially his wife. It was the custom in the late Victorian era that it was in the wife's realm to manage the household and the family's social life. It was also the norm in such families for very young children to be under the care of baby nurses until they were old enough to begin their schooling. The children would visit their parents once in the morning around breakfast, and sometimes they would be called in the evening to visit their parents, but not every day. As an aside, they also did not eat with their parents until they had learned proper table manners, and that was the responsibility of first the nurses and then the governesses. Tutors would be hired to teach the boys until they were old enough to go to boarding school, anywhere from the ages of 10 to 13. Girls would stay home and be taught by governesses. They were taught basic reading and writing, elementary math, usually at least one foreign language, and some music and drawing or painting. If a child showed a talent in a particular area, a tutor might be hired especially to teach that subject. After Beatrix had become fluent in writing French, a tutor was hired to teach her German. Later, a tutor was hired to teach her advanced drawing skills and oil painting. As Beatrix grew older, her father took more interest in her education. By this time, she had good table manners, so she was allowed to sit at the family table in the evening and have discussions with her family. Although he agreed with her mother that going to a college was not an appropriate thing for a woman to do, he did encourage her scientific explorations as well as her artistic ones. To this end, he bought increasingly more specialized and also more expensive scientific books. She had a full set of Linnaean books and another set of books by a famous German mycologist, which I'll explain what that is later. And she managed to read both of them. And the German book was, as you might have guessed, in German, and she was fluent in German, in reading German, so that was not a problem. Around this time, there are entries in her diary expressing her thoughts on religion and philosophy. To quote from this book, and I have written down here, hold up the book. This is considered the definitive biography of Beatrix Potter. It looks very thick. Only 447 of that is regular text. The rest are all notes in the back. Nature, she knew, was not immutable, but nature, as revealed in the Lake District and etched in her mind's eye, was the closest to everlasting as she could come. In another entry around the same time, Beatrix wrote, "All outward forms of religion are almost useless and are the cause of endless strife. What do creeds matter? What possible difference does it make to anyone today whether the direction of resurrection is correct or incorrect? Or the miracles, they don't happen nowadays." Many current UUs would disagree. But very clear things do that concern us much more. Believe that there is a greater power silently working all things for good. Behave yourself and never mind the rest. Several attempts were made by another Potter, this is a typo here. Several attempts were made by Mother Potter to have Beatrix come out into society and find a suitable husband. The potential husband would judge her on her appearance and whether he could converse with her. Beatrix refused to go to Paris to buy designer dresses for the season, as was the custom for new debutantes. She thought it was silly, frivolous, and too expensive, which I agree with her. She failed at the conversation test. Being naturally shy, she mostly just sat quietly. She was not good at small talk, preferring to speak up only when she had something important to say. All attempts were painful and only succeeded in making Beatrix feel even more alone and lonely. Besides, she didn't want to just marry someone suitable. She wanted to have someone to love her and to be able to love someone in return. Her parents despaired of ever seeing their daughter marry. Since the custom was for daughters to live at home until they married, Beatrix came to realize fairly early on that the only way out of this stifling environment was to have her own income. But how? And that was a radical idea for single women at the time, to even think about wanting to have an income. At some point, she learned that it was possible to get a student ticket to work in the research lab and learn from other research scientists at the Kew Gardens in London. The plan was to eventually become a paid researcher. She knew she would need help. She contacted her uncle, Sir Roscoe Potter, a well-known chemist. He was also a retired member of Parliament. So we have some expertise and we have some pull. After several failed attempts to make an appointment with him, Sir Roscoe was very busy apparently. After several failed attempts to make an appointment with him, he finally agreed to meet her. She visited him at his home. While there, she collected several samples of fungi, which she drew both grossly and microscopically. And to explain why I used those particular adverbs, I was thinking gross anatomy and microanatomy, so that's what that means. He gave her some pointers on microscopy and sent her home with some fine equipment that she would have otherwise found difficult to buy on her own. A couple of months later, after a visit to her father, Uncle Roscoe did finally take her to Kew Gardens. He introduced her to 5 of the top scientists there. Then he took her to see the director of the mycology department. Mycology is a branch of biology that studies the genetics and properties of fungi. He glanced at her drawings briefly. Beatrix noted later in her journal that she had seen a flash of surprise on his face that quickly disappeared. Perhaps he was surprised by how good they were, but didn't want to be caught looking impressed by the work of a mere amateur. The director handed her a student card without comments. I'm sorry, that should be a student ticket. She wondered afterward why the director and even her uncle seemed to ignore and then act dismissively toward her. Several days later, in what seemed like resignation, she wrote that maybe the director had treated her as if he were a misogynist. You think? When she came back to Kew Gardens, she went straight to the only scientist she felt had shown some acceptance of her on that first visit. His name was George Massey. In what she thought was a generous gesture, he provided her with several samples of fungi. Later, she would find out he gave her these particular specimens because they were notorious among scientists for being difficult to propagate. That is nearly impossible to reproduce. Beatrix would discover the novel way these plants reproduced. Only one other scientist in Switzerland had come to the same conclusion. But he was mocked for his ideas, and so Beatrix's ideas had the same fate. Eventually sponsored by George Massey, a prominent English mycologist associated with the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew Gardens, and the Linnaean Society of London, she sent a paper to the Linnaean Society for consideration. The Linnaean Society, founded in London in 1788, is the oldest learned society devoted to the science of natural history. Again, it was barely looked at and essentially dismissed because she was, 1, too young. She was a mature woman in her 30s. I don't know that a man would have been considered too young. An amateur, and a, can you guess the next one? Woman. This door having been closed, a disheartened Beatrix looked for some other way to make a living. She talked to her former governess, Annie Moore, who she had kept in touch with over the years. Annie suggested Beatrix make a picture book out of, I should say a storybook, out of what she had drawn in a picture letter written to her 5-year-old son, Noel, into a story with original illustrations. Beatrix worked hard on getting the story just right. It had to be lengthened from the picture letter, and the pictures just so. She then had 500 copies printed at her own expense. She gave some away to her family and friends, then sold others to friends and acquaintances. When she had distributed the first 250, She decided to keep the rest until she determined her next step. And I'm going to stop and explain what a picture letter is. This was a form of communication that was popular before snapshots became inexpensive and readily available. It was a way of describing, if people from one adult to another adult, what they saw on their holidays, or what we would call vacations. It was also a popular way to write to children. You know, they would illustrate what they were saying with pictures. Anyway, Beatrix, she went around to various different publishers. She was rejected by all of them. So she then had 500 copies printed at her own expense. She gave some away to her family members and friends, then sold others to friends and acquaintances. When she had distributed the first 250 books, she decided to keep the rest until she determined her next step. Just when she began to feel guilty that she might have been unfairly imposing on those friends who had purchased her books, those people came back to ask for several more to give away as gifts. She went back to Frederick Warren and Company, one of the publishers who had previously rejected her, but had shown some mild interest in the book. This time they accepted it, explaining they had a younger brother named Norman Warren who wanted to get into the business. So this could be a good opportunity for him to take charge of a project. Beatrix and Norman developed a good working friendship. I'm sorry, I just skipped a line here, a very important one. They developed a good working relationship and eventually a good personal friendship. This in spite of the fact that Potter was a tough negotiator, and I'm sure there must have been some difficult discussions along the way. As you might have guessed, their friendship eventually developed into a romantic one. But surprisingly, her parents, but not surprisingly, her parents disapproved. After considerable argument, her parents reluctantly agreed to the marriage, but under the condition that they wait until the fall after the Potter's family holiday vacation. While on a holiday, she got word that Norman was very ill and might not make it. She rushed to his house immediately and arrived there that afternoon. Sadly, he had died that morning. She would wear the engagement ring he gave her the rest of her life, even after she married another man. Her second fiancé, William Hayles, would become her first husband, sharing a marriage of mutual love, respect, and mutual helpfulness that lasted for 30 years until her death at the age of 77 in 1943. Potter would never be recognized as a mycologist in her lifetime. It wasn't until 1997 that the Linnaean Society issued an official apology for having treated her scurvily, I love that word, at the time she has tried to present a paper as part of the process to become a member. So that would have been about 60 years later. When Potter knew her days were ending, she moved into the bedroom at Hilltop Farm. There, on December 22nd, 1943, she died with her loving husband at her side. William was diligent in carrying out the stipulations of her will. All of her land holdings, except Castle Farm, which was their marital home, went to the National Trust. Upon his death 18 months later, his land also went to the trust. In summary, Potter was a lifelong Unitarian, but infrequently attended church in her later years. In the Lake District, where there were no Unitarian churches in the area, occasionally she went to She attended Anglican services, and at other times she went to a Quaker meeting house, which was more to her liking. I believe her primary source of awe and wonder was nature, both spiritually and scientifically. It was where she retreated when the world got too close. She was such a brilliant scientific illustrator that some of her work is still used in textbooks today. As you have seen with the examples we showed, they were not only scientifically accurate, but artistically beautiful as well. Although she is best known for her children's books, especially The Tale of Peter Rabbit, which was her first book, arguably her greatest contribution to the world was her support of the National Trust, and especially the Lake District. She embodied the value of generosity. She and William lived simply and frugally, not only so they could buy more land, but because that was their preferred lifestyle. But they treated their tenant farmers well, repairing and maintaining their homes and farms, and helping out if there was an illness in the family. If you know anything about farming, it is always something of a gamble. You have lean years and better years. But she didn't have to worry about that, so she was able to keep the repairs up and keep everything done, even in the bad years, because she had her own finances to go back to. She also arranged for a district nurse to come to the Lake District in an attempt to reduce what had been rather high maternal and infant mortality rates. The farming families were skeptical at first, but came to love her being the nurse. Potter also provided her with a cottage to live in and a car for making rounds, although the nurse usually went about on a bicycle. Obviously, if she had to carry anything or escort someone to a clinic, she would have to have the car. That Beatrix Potter was aware of the interdependent web between the environment, the plants, the animals, and humans is obvious. She believed in equity between people. She believed everyone had a right to health care, safe working and living conditions, and the opportunity to enjoy nature and the outdoors. And she actually worked with another Unitarian named Octavia Hill to provide opportunities for inner city children who normally didn't get to see much nature to come out to the Lake District every year. And she had other groups, youth groups that came out as well for the same purpose. Following our Q&A session, there will be about a half-hour break for refreshments and fellowships before we show the movie Miss Potter, starring Renee Zellweger. And if you are disappointed that I didn't talk more about the books and the publishing, the movie covers it very well, so I encourage you to come back. Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you, Lauren. Our closing hymn is number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to rise or sing as the Spirit moves you. The lyrics will again be projected on the screen. Now please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
So grateful praise for the joy of human care. Sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle, false, and mild, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Like the flame of the chalice, may the flame in our hearts burn, remaining unextinguished. May it ignite our energies, our drive, our resolve to dream, to build, and live into the world that good which exists, for now, only in our imaginings. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. Thank you, Lauren, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. We would also like to thank Tinka Friend, who accompanies our hymns in American Sign Language. Thank you, Tinka. So, following a 1-minute break, we will have 10 to 15 minutes for a discussion and Q&A following the service for those who wish to share your thoughts and observations on today's topic. Please be aware that this will be included on the video that is posted. For the rest of you, you are now welcome to adjourn into the parish hall. Very nice. Okay, so for those of you that stayed, is there anyone who would like to come up and ask some questions or have any thoughts on today's service? You're welcome to come up. Diane. Hi, Diane. Yes, please.
Now, I always come late, so I really don't know exactly what I was saying, except Beatrix Potter.
We believe in you.
Now, can I go from here and not go up there?
Can everybody hear?
Here we go.
Go to the mic.
Go to the mic. Okay, I promise I'll stay on topic to the extent of the word Beatrix Potter. If you've ever had a chance to leave this area and see the beautiful Lake District, which I have had a chance to do twice in my life. I traveled there with my husband, a teacher, and we were on time frames where we had time out. Elementary school teacher, but he loved the earth, he loved seeing the beauty of it, and the Lake District is fantastic. It's not wall-to-wall concrete, at least last time we were there it wasn't. It was beautiful. It reminded us of the gift of our earth. It reminds us when we're there of the beauty of nature, and also the loveliness of those that create in story opportunity for children to read and enjoy the idea of education and reading and the joy of a story. So combined with all of that, I'm sorry I missed your whole topic, but I have my own medical issues, and that reminds me that you have to be an advocate for yourself in all situations, including embracing the environment, as we see that Potter has done in her legacy. And so I'm kind of veering from the message, but I think I return to it. Each individual, whether they have a lot of dollars or none, can do what they can to maintain the beauty of nature and embrace the fact that it's important for it to exist. Now, there are many things that can happen outside of this, outside of the topic of Potter, which are related to the beauty of maintaining nature. And even now, if you never go to the Lake District, embrace the beauty and the dedication she carried there and bring it to your own backyard as much as you can, or to your own world, or to your own country. That's my topic. So Beatrix Potter expanded a bit, but it is a beautiful thing she did, and something I embraced, and if you see it, it'll remind you of the importance and how easily it can be lost. We can all make a difference, locally as well as if we travel to the Lake District. But she was an inspiration. That's my long talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Hi, I'm Tinka. Nick and I were fortunate in 2017 to create an opportunity for us to go and travel around England by rail for 2 months. And one of the places where we did stop, when we spent a week, was at the Lake District. And after a ride on the boat at Lake Windermere boat ride, we found ourselves over by Beatrix Potter's farm, the hilltop, saw it. And then also there's a museum there for her, and that really is focused on more of the books and the Harry Potter and her as a artistic and literary person. But also one of the things that really inspired me when I was there and spoke to people and, people who live in the Lake District, that she's greatly beloved from her environment, the environmental part. She, in fact, she went and they were having a meeting, local meeting, and it was about land ownership and things like that, and she showed up, and it was like a scandalous kind of thing with her being a woman to show up at this, be like a city council type of a thing. And she spoke passionately about the land, and she was a landowner, but she spoke passionately about bequeathments and about turning so much of the land over to public use. And it was her extremely hard work and persistent work, and being the example of taking her property and turning large parts of it over to the National Trust and encouraging other large landowners in the Lake District to do the same. And if you ever get an opportunity to see the Lake District, it is beautiful, it's gorgeous. And there are small little villages and hamlets and things like that all over, but people go hiking there all the time, and there are open pathways through everything for you to go walking, and it's just beautiful. So I know I was very impressed and appreciative. That was a piece that I did not know until I went to the Lake District about the environmental aspect and the sense of equality when it comes to land ownership.
Thank you, Tinka.
First off, I want to say thank you so much. It's wonderful to learn about more famous UUs. The more I get to learn about this church and its religion, it's just fucking fascinating. Yesterday, I went to Starbucks to buy a cup of decaf coffee, and I looked at some quarters I had, and one of them had a bit of Spanish on the back, and I don't speak Spanish, and I don't read Spanish, so I Googled it to understand what it meant. I thought it was Latin, sorry. And it was this whole this whole thing about the history and honoring women, and then it started to talk about the other side of the quarter, which was, it was a quarter, so it was George Washington, and but it looked different from all the other quarters. And it turns out that style was the one originally selected by the mint, the people who make the coin, the one they wanted. He was some famous sculptor. Do you want to know why I think they didn't pick it? Because it was a woman. And it's heartbreaking to see someone as amazing as this Beatrix Potter denying her gift to the world because of how she was born. I identify as a woman. I know how it looks. And I've also suffered a lot of marginalization because of how I act and how I behave and what's on the side. I hope that we are moving in a better direction. I hope that we're making progress, not just for us now and our children, but for all those like Beatrix Potter who fought despite the system to spread goodness, to spread life, education, and love. Thank you.
I have a question. How many of you out there have a Peter Rabbit book or had one in childhood? Right? The little green book with all the illustrations in it? Yep. And Lauren was pointing out that they were that small size so that children, small children, could actually hold the book, right?
And she fought for that. The publisher did not want to do that, and she fought to keep it.
And in the Lake District where you go now to those beautiful little places where they're trying to sustain themselves and under fantastic gorgeous rules, you will see that she is the heroine of all those little existing places. She may help them continue like whatever those tourists choose to invest in taking them as a story to their own worlds. They will all work together.
Oh, I didn't really, okay. Ooh, now it's too loud. Okay, I was going to say I can project my voice. What was I going to say on that? I guess that was basically it, yeah.
It sounds like Beatrix Potter was pretty modern-minded. She had her hands on what she wanted her product to look like. She was willing to fight for the conditions of her vision. So I believe that she was very much ahead of her time. There's another fun fact. The Japanese are such big fans of Beatrix Potter that they have recreated her farm in Japan for people to visit. Where? In Japan. Oh, I have to find out, but there is a recreation of her farm in Japan. You imagine that. Tika?
Yes, I just wanted to add that she, how do I put this? She wanted to maintain the integrity of her art and her craft, right? And she would go and spend a lot of time. She worked in watercolors, which is very difficult to work with and to get the color just like you want and not have it bleed into others. And she would work on an illustration for a long time. And then when she took it to the publisher, she fought with them at times. They would print it, and she wanted to make sure, like a copy, like a, test thing. And then she would say, oh, no. You're making, the blue is too dark. This is this, So I mean, she really had, she fought for the integrity of her art and of her craft, and it frustrated them. But at the same time, I think because she did fall in love with one of the brothers, the younger brother of the publishing company, and it was, I think, over those debates, her standing firm and saying things that he really was drawn to her and really fell in love with her. She was a woman of substance and of and of integrity.
It's a sexy attribute.
Thank you, Tika. I think the take-home message is that pushback is important. Now and forever. Okay. Bill?
I believe this was Miss Potter's, one of the things that happened, at least as far as something I had read, was that some of the she'd written a piece, I believe it was on mushrooms. Mm-hmm. She'd done some scientific work in illustration, and some guy basically claimed it as his.
Oh.
And at some particular point is when they talk about the difference of between guilt and shame, with, I guess, the one the definition that you don't like more being put on it. At some particular time in our life, whether racial, whether sexual, whether religious, even if you have the angle to be a bastard, there should be something within you that says, no, I got the angle and this person doesn't have the clout in this society to stop me, but I personally am not going to take that advantage. It's foul. It's just wretched. It's, some people get that sooner than others. Others have to be reincarnated a few dozen times before they get it. But there are lessons to be learned that you don't say, well, I'm not a racist anymore, I'm just a sexist. At some point, there's got to be a time where you just say, that is beneath me. I could and I won't. And little by little, the seed is planted. Or in the case of somebody who studies mushrooms, the spores are planted. But at some particular time, whether in Minnesota or what have you, let's just the act of doing certain deeds that are so wretched as to be beneath us. Some of us are getting it. Some of us work in progress, right? But dang.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. Would anyone else like to come up and have a question or speak their thoughts? Is there anyone online who would like to share their thoughts? I think we have one more person. Tim?
My name is Tim Lawson. I come through. Yeah, I'm coming through. Okay. And she said, anybody want to come up here and share their thoughts? Well, I've been in associated with another church that's called Believers Faith Center. And one of the members there, he was giving here, I was talking to him about this church, and he said, I had a reason to go over there, and I went over there once, and I didn't see one Bible there. I didn't see one Bible there. Then he said some more stuff, and he ended up his little talker, his thoughts, but I said, that church is evil, don't go back there. And then there's a pastor of Believers Faith Center who was a good friend of mine. You know, he would help me. If you can touch me in contact with Believers Faith Center, again, if you can put me in contact with Believers Faith Center, I'll give you $50. And I just want to say, Gracie, I had thoughts of Gracie being my girlfriend. That was just wishful thinking. I said, Gracie, I found out you're not my girlfriend.
Excuse me, Tim? This portion of the service is to talk about the service, not about other things. So, okay? All right, thank you for coming up. Okay. All right, so if there are no further comments, thank you for sharing. Oh, Diane, one more comment?
It's right now, it's what we can do right now. We can be inspired by what was done before by Beatrix Potter and what she has done and what made it so possible for us to still have that inspiration. If we learn from it and we take it into our own lives, we've learned a marvelous lesson. And I think it's lovely that there are people who stand up to be beautiful Beatrix Potter and her beautiful talents, but let's learn and grow from it. Because if we don't learn from what happens in the past, we can be bound to repeat it in a bad way. Let's find a good way to go forward and find joy in sharing with each other the best steps forward. She made it possible. Thank you for sharing that. And now I'm going to stop talking.
All right. So I think that's all the comments we have today. Now one more. Sorry. Hello, Walt.
Hello, my name is Walt. Perhaps you saw on one of the Sunday morning shows, I saw at least two of them, Amy Klobuchar as senator, speaking about this latest killing in, Minneapolis. Anyway, it shows that there has been progress, although we're certainly sliding back temporarily. But perhaps this talk can show us that we are moving forward in terms of women having some clout at last in the world political scene. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last call. No one? Okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and please join us now in the parish hall for further fellowship.